Good morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you for joining me, Probie, in my Probie's prison again. As always, today we have Shubarino,
What's up, y'all?
we have Atiri,
Yep.
and finally we have a special guest today, Bullswag.
Hello.
And we're all here to talk about the toxic culture in gaming today. So how's everyone doing before we get started?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Bullswag to the show, somebody that I've had a lot of really good conversations with, and I think this is a topic that hits close to home for him like it does me. So welcome, Bullswag.
I'm doing good, and thank you for the introduction. And yeah, this is a topic that hits quite home to me, considering I use most of the time playing games. So, yeah.
So let's address it real quick. The other three, so Probie, Shub, and Atiri, we're all from the United States. Where are you from, Bull? Just a little bit of background.
Well, I am from originally northern part of Jutland, which is in Denmark. Right now, residing in the southern part of Jutland, which
Awesome.
is, if you know how the European map looks, they sit on top of Germany.
All right. So just to give everyone a little bit of, background on Bullswag. So again, as a gaming community, we run across a bunch of different people from all over the world, and Bullswag's a perfect example of that. He's quite literally on the opposite part of the world of me and still runs into the same issues that we do on a day-to-day basis.
As cheesy as it is, man, gaming is like a universal language, I think. I think at the end of the day, we all experience the same things.
It's true. It's true.
It is. It's same, but different. I have tried playing on some American servers in League of Legends when I still played that, and the feeling was kind of the same, but there was it was kind of different in a way that how it was toxic and how it was positive. Because don't get me wrong, it was also positive, but there were toxic elements both in the European servers and in the European US servers, and they were kind of different, which is weird when you think about it.
Explain a little.
Yeah, different how?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm guessing some of the similarities is like everyone is gonna call you a mad shitter. Everyone is gonna use foul language to describe you, so to speak. But there was a difference, like in the European servers, because it is much more multicultural in the fact that there are so many different countries in Europe as a whole, so it's hard to take it as a monolith. While in the, not saying it's not multicultural in the US, but it was different because there is more of a monoculture in the US than there is in Europe as a whole.
Sure.
So they were speaking kind of different. It was very memey, actually, for me. Like they were doing a lot of mad face. They were doing like troll face. To be fair, this is a few years ago, so it might be dated by now. But that was how they were speaking, and you didn't meet that in the European servers because it wasn't as widespread in Europe, doing like memes, and at the time, as it was called, rage comics. They weren't as widespread in Europe as they were in the US, and
Sure.
you could see that in the internet culture.
So another thing that I would assume, and I could be wrong, about the European servers versus the North American servers, right? North America, we have English and Spanish are our primary two languages that are spoken that we run into as a gaming culture. Not that there aren't other languages, it's just as an overall, right?
I feel like we have to give a shout out to Portuguese.
Okay.
At least in the League of Legends community. Like
Sure.
they
Sure.
became the meme when I was growing up playing League. So
Sure. And RuneScape too, right? Like you run into
the Venezuelan for RuneScape.
Yep. But we run into a very limited amount of languages, right? Just because of where we're at in the world versus in the EU, there, like you said, you got Denmark, you got Sweden, you're right next to Germany, you got your English speakers, you probably ran into Russian. Like you could just keep going on because you guys are all pretty much compacted into one server.
Yeah, that is very true. Like I have met the things I have been called in European, both positive and negative, is like Polish, French, Spanish, German, I think a little bit of Italian even. And when I was playing StarCraft 2, I even met some Middle Eastern guys, which some of them were very nice. Some of them, like everything on the internet, not so nice. So I have been cursed at in a multiple of languages.
Can I say that I thought it was really counterintuitive that you said that the United States was more memey? I guess for me, I assumed that the United States would be like more. It sounds so dumb, but like more racist, more extremist in the way that they act, and that memes would be like the universal language for EU. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not understand somebody who's speaking German at you, but if they send you a rage comic, like, you understand, right? So I guess it's just counterintuitive to me to think that America, well, I guess it's not, right? Like, America being memey, America's a meme, right? But like, it's still a little bit counterintuitive to me that that's your experience. But I guess when I was younger, I was a rage comic guy. I was mad.
We're all old enough that we grew up in the age of Call of Duty lobbies, as we call it in gaming, where people said whatever the hell they wanted. It was squeaker voices, and your mom was involved in every joke, like whether she knew it or not. That's just the fact of it, right?
Absolutely true.
A lot of things that we said back then that I look back on now, though, and I'm like really embarrassed about it, right? Like, like I think all of us threw around some words we wish we could take back and said some things we didn't mean. So, but that's kind of the point of the episode, right? Like, toxicity is prevalent. Like, even in people, like I had to grow up and I had to learn how to control my anger. And at this point, I try to avoid it. I just try to avoid being angry at things. Like, and that doesn't mean that I don't get angry. I get angry all the time, like literally every day. But I try not to be the guy who used to play League of Legends and tilt when his teammate didn't participate and snaps his keyboard over his knee.
God, like, I wish I could say that. There is one game that you guys know me for that I'm calm when I'm playing 95% of other games, but we load up Smite. That mad shitter you're talking about, that's me. That's this guy right here. I'm the guy that's asking if you're role playing as, blind, deaf, and dumb.
Ooh, so let me actually put you on the spot though then, Probie. Why? Like, literally, why? Like, why be a shitter? Like, why dedicate that energy to it? Like, are you getting something out of it? Like, is it just like natural? Like, why?
So no, I think honestly, when it comes to games like Smite, I think, honestly, the biggest issue that I have is that I've played the game at such a high level, right? That
here we go.
Yeah, I know, right? Here we go, swinging it around already. But it's like, I've played the game at such a high level, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last night, actually, of I just wish matchmaking was a little better, right? Everyone can have good games, bad games, but we were talking about it with Motown, that like in Atiri, it was Motown, Atiri, and I were all playing Smite last night together. And I said, I don't mind losing, but I mind when I have games that you either stomp or get stomped when they're not close, right? And I think that's the problem that I have that really starts to set me off and make me be toxic is you don't get the close games. You don't get the ones that are like back and forth, super close in like objectives and gold and kills and all that. You get games that one team snowballs at 3 minutes and then you're stuck in there for 30.
I will actually, I very much agree. Like, I have talked about this with my brother and some of my friends throughout the years, and I would much rather prefer waiting 5-7 minutes in queue and getting a good game, because it's going to last me half an hour of game time instead of waiting 2 minutes and then getting a game that's still going to take 30 minutes, because no matter how, in some games, you can ruffle stomp them quite fast. But even then, there's movement speed, there's everything that's going to take into account. The game is still going to take 20-30 minutes. And you're just wasting those minutes on a game that's either lost from the beginning because you were queued with people that's so much higher skill level than you, or you're queued against people that's so much lower than you that it's just not gonna be fun. So
Yeah,
I'd rather
and-
have longer queue times.
Well, and you bring up a good point about the being bad at a game, right? And I'm going to reference a video that Motown actually had sent to me that I think the majority of us have watched. But
And we should probably link it down below too, so
Yeah.
make sure that we can mention the title at some point.
sure, we'll link that video down for anyone else that's interested. It is a long video, but it goes into more than just your thoughts and opinions on what I'm about to state. There's scientific and like actual factual data and statistics behind it, but why it's bad to be bad, or why it's rude to be bad at multiplayer video games. And it's not just your time that you're spending. You are in a group. So Smite, for example, when we're playing, we're grouped up with 4 other people on our team and 5 on the other team, right? And why is it bad or rude to be bad at the game or not play to win? And it's because you're wasting all these other people's time. You combine that, if a 30-minute game goes on, you're looking at 2.5 hours of total people time, right? If one person does bad, you've just drained 2 hours from other people's life combined of you just not caring. You just saying, you know what? I don't want to play anymore, and I don't care if we have fun or play to win or even just try. If you're trying, that's fine. But that's when I start to get real toxic, is when I look at it as, man, this one guy ruined my time for my 30 minutes.
So I know we talked a little bit about matchmaking and the idea of having like different queues, right? But I want to posit the idea that video games as a service, which is what something like Smite is, something like League of Legends is, their best interest is to make the game as appealing to as many people as possible. And while every single person who considers themselves a high-level mobile player that I've ever talked to has said, I wish that there were just, high-level queues. Like, I wish matchmaking was better. I wish... That's not in the game's best interest, because that completely splits the community in two. And that actually breeds more toxicity, because these top level players will never integrate with the lower level ones ever again, which means that the lower level ones don't have a chance to compete, right? Like, you have to play against those people, and they're just going to exponentially shoot past everybody and just make this gap wider and wider.
I can respect that, because when I learned Smite for the first time, before I even joined a team or anything, when I was learning it, playing against higher rated people was such a blessing in disguise. Of, you spend multiple hours, I mean hundreds of hours of just getting your ass kicked, but you start to learn. Like, you see someone do a combo with someone and you're like, oh damn, that's really cool. I want to try and start integrating that with this god or this champion or hero or whatever, right?
I remember the first time that I got stomped by a Xin Zhao playing League of Legends in like season 2 or something, and like walk past middle lane jungle, and that Xin Zhao 3-buttoned me and literally just ate me, and I was like, I have to learn how to do that.
I want to be that guy.
And like, I do that in all video games, though. Like, you can even argue like something like Path of Exile, that is like a different style of game. Every league, I literally watch like 5 videos on the new builds or the best builds, and I just copy whatever looks fun. Like, but those builds are only possible because there are those high level people that are putting that content out there for everyone. And I think that's the difference there, is like, so if I can bring that back to the question I asked you, Probie, you answered why you get toxic, but why choose toxicity? Like, why not just walk away? Most people would tell you, just walk away. Like, you get mad at it, just walk away. Like, just don't play it.
And that's fair. That's one of those tough ones to answer, right? It's one of those, you enjoy something so much, right? Like, for people who may not be dedicated gamers or anything like that, or come home and join a community and game with all their friends, it's one of those things that you go and do your hobby, right? And if you have a bad day doing your hobby, you're still doing your hobby. You're still doing the thing that at the end of the day, you enjoy doing it, even though it may piss you off or frustrate you, right? Like, people who work on cars, they got to be some of the most masochistic people, because one thing goes bad and they're like, why did this go bad? Why isn't this running how it's supposed to? But they continue doing it. And it's almost the same with gaming, except for you go back into the, there's other people involved and you can't play for other people. Atiri actually told me last night, because I made a really asshole comment of, I'm top damage, I'm top mitigated, I'm top gold, I'm top kills. And he said, well, why don't you just play by yourself? Well, I can't. I can't.
But yeah, I just say that I can appreciate that I can hear about a Tiri in Motown shitting on you all day, and we can still come record this and laugh with each other the next day. Because, like, let me tell you, I don't know if anybody listening has figured out yet, but the three of us are pretty big personalities. Like, we very easily butt heads.
I mean, he's asking for it, so that's it.
Not wrong. I think I'm partly masochistic because I like when I'm made fun of, I guess. I don't know at this point.
Yeah, I think I understand the idea, because as I personally, when I get mad at a game, I step away from the game because I have a very explosive anger, so I try to mitigate that by not subjugating myself to things that make me angry. But on the other hand, I still understand the whole point of, doing something you enjoy, but while doing the thing you enjoy, you get angry, because I used to play handball, for all the American viewers out there. That's a game where you throw a ball around and knock the shit out of each other. Kind of like American football. The general atmosphere during a handball match is very what I would call toxic. They yell at each other, you throw the ball at the goal and you miss, and your teammates yell at you. And generally speaking, it is not an atmosphere I normally would put myself in. But for most of my childhood years, my teenage years, and even for a long time of my young adult years, I subjugated myself to this because I really liked the sport. So despite the fact that there was this anger that was just ingrained in the sport, I enjoyed the sport, the adrenaline rush, so to speak, because not only do you get an adrenaline rush from playing the sport, but the anger gives you an adrenaline rush. So I can see how some people, for example, Probie, play Smite, but they get this adrenaline rush from the anger they get from playing the game. Not only playing the game, which, like, that's the whole point. You get a dopamine rush, you get an adrenaline rush from playing the game. You do good, you hope that your teammates do good, and then you get angry when your teammates don't do good, and then you get the adrenaline rush from the anger as well. Just pushing up, boosting your heart rate. So I can very much understand the toxicity. I don't agree with it. I will say that right away. I think me and Probie had talks about it before. I don't agree with this toxicity, but I get it. I 100% get it.
Can I ask, on what you said there real quick, Bullswag, was there an implication that you're saying that there's anger baked into some video games? Because you were saying that there was anger baked into your sport for handball. And I just want to know, like, I personally don't know that I believe that. Like, I don't know that there's an emotion baked into a video game, but I also don't necessarily know that there has to be an emotion baked into a sport. Like, anger and being intense are two different things.
I think for part of that is when you're playing something that you are passionate about or just enjoy in general, you tend to develop emotions around that, and then once you tie that emotion to that game, it's hard to get rid of it. Like, it's like that with almost any habit that you can develop. Once you set an emotion to, this is bad, or this is good, or this makes me angry, even if you come in at a completely different mindset, as soon as you start doing it, your mind's going to go, well, this is supposed to be an angry activity, so I'm going to become angry whether it's not supposed to be or not.
So you mentioned that, like, we've talked about how, like, the toxicity is sort of inherent, right? Like, at the end of the day, you get mad when the games are imbalanced to the point where they're not fun and you tilt. But you also mentioned that if you're not the best at the game that you can be, you're wasting people's time. Aren't you wasting people's time by being a shitter? And I would be willing to bet that if you're the kind of toxic that I've been, you've also, like, sat in the base and not played the game when you've gotten mad, which means you're literally doing the thing that you're calling these other people being guilty of because they're not good at the game.
Sure. No, that's I mean, that's a fair take, right? Like, yes, I would have to agree that I have been that in those situations, right, where I don't very often sit in base or do anything like that, where I'm just like not participating at all. But and I don't leave games right in the middle. I think in Smite I probably have over 2,000 matches, and I've never left a game in the middle of a game. But I absolutely have wasted people's time by just half-ass trying, knowing that I need to back out of a fight, and then just saying, you know what, let's just keep holding W, and if they don't follow me, well, I guess I die, and that's it, right? And almost forcing people to either react to me or not. And yes, I would say that that is a very toxic behavior. And I would say, yes, in the long run, it doesn't work out, and it wastes people's time, right? Again, things I try to work on, obviously it doesn't work all the time. But yes, I would have to agree, I have wasted people's time for the exact reason that I get pissed off. And I think it's when you hit that point of, I'm so mad that I don't give a shit if I'm making others mad at this point.
Can I interject here? Because I think one of the things I read when I was playing League of Legends a lot, one of the pro players wrote once that I always take 2 to 3 normal games before I go into ranked games. Because it's both a warm-up, and if I get angry, I will stop playing the game for an hour and then go back to the game. Because they knew if they were angry, they were going to play worse. As you just said, like when you get really angry, you get really frustrated with your team, you're just going to hold down W and then hope your team reacts to you. So in this case, he would kind of try and negate that by doing the normal games, warm up, get into the game at the start of the day, kind of like limber up, if you're going to put a sports term on it. And,
sure, you're almost conditioning your mental, right?
Yeah, and then if he gets mad during the normal games, it's just like, I'm going to take half an hour to an hour before I go into my ranked games and start streaming, because I can't do this right now. I'm going to be, as we have said before, a mad shitter. And that's not going to help the game. That's going to be worse both for my streamers. Maybe sometimes it's going to be a good content for the streamer, seeing the normally calm streamer going mad shitter. But that's not what most of the viewers are coming for. And it's not what the team is there for. So he's like, have you tried doing like, I'm going to take a few practice games, calm down, and then go into the real games. I mean, I know it's hard when you're playing with friends and someone comes asking you, do you want to play? Then, of course, you're going to say, yeah, I want to play.
So that kind of leads into what I want to tie into it of the effects of being toxic or having someone be toxic toward you in and out of a game, right? So like last night, we ended on a good note, but if the night would have kept going how the night went, yeah, it probably would have pissed me off a little bit after I had gotten off to go to bed or, to relax or do whatever. What other types of effects have you guys experienced to where like, and this is not something that I'll be honest, this is not something that I think about a whole lot of how are my actions affecting another person that I'm coming into contact with in the gaming community by being toxic.
Well, I actually think I can tie this in. I'm not coming after you, Probie. Don't think this. I love you, but yeah, there was a time. I have told the story before. I was for a very brief moment in League of Legends in the first season. I think I was number 97 in Europe ranking for all of Europe. And I was very proud of that. And I've told you guys about it. And we had a Smite game where you then, during the Smite game, I was playing very bad. I don't play Smite very often. And it's a very new game. It's a very new experience for me. And then you said to me, you told me you were part number 100 in Europe for League of Legends. I don't believe you.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how ashamed I am that I made that fucking comment.
Yeah. And that thing has, I mean, it hasn't, I don't want to say it's stuck with me per se, because that sounds like I'm brooding over my anger, but still, it's kind of been there in the background sometimes when you guys talk about Smite, and it's one of the reasons I don't play Smite with you anymore, because that comment felt less you talking shit about my game, which is fair, I was playing like shit, but you were talking shit about me, and that's where it got kind of from, I could, you know, it got to the point where I couldn't really differentiate between the game and the person anymore. Because I can take a lot of shit during the game. I don't care that you're calling me a shitter during the game, but there you went from going, you're shit at the game, to, I don't believe you're adequate at any game, and that kind of hurt.
Let me take this moment to apologize for that comment, because again, I have started warning people, not warning, that sounds really bad, but I have started coming with a disclaimer when people are like, hey, I want to get in this Smite, and I'm like,
That's
all
not
right,
much better.
you need to understand, well, yeah, I'm like, all right, please understand that when we're in a Smite game, things will be said that need to be just not taken ultra seriously.
I think all three of us in this podcast right now have been yelled at by you for not knowing what the fuck we're doing.
Yep. All right, hold on. We're gonna move topics to a game where I'm not raging at people. So, like, when I led raids in World of Warcraft, that was pretty calm, right? Right, guys? Come on.
Never played WoW with you.
Oh, see, and Terry can just say yes. He doesn't know better.
To be fair, you were actually very nice doing raids. Like, I knew you were shitting on people in whispers at times,
right,
but you were
don't sell
very
me out
nice
like that.
at keep.
Dude, you probably got caught in 4K streaming into the Discord with people whispering you about shit. And you're
Yo,
I was just gonna say, there was a few times where you were caught with streaming and people
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
what the
it
fuck
wasn't
were you
me
saying?
caught. It
And you
was
just,
someone else whispering me, and I'm like, I'm streaming. Stop f***ing whispering me. They can see it.
yeah, I've been there.
but you were generally, but to be fair, during, and that's where I don't want to paint anyone with a broad brush during this, because I've played many games with you, Probie. I've played World of Warcraft with you, Ascended Gaming to be exact, and I have played Valheim with you. I have played what the what's the other game? I can't even remember. I know that was a third and a fourth game I played with you, and you were not a mad shitter. You were a very nice person to play with. Like, playing Valheim with you was very calm. It was very nice. You put on a project. I remember it was building a bridge.
Yeah,
you were very happy about that.
And bridge across Valheim.
Yeah, and that was very nice playing with you during that, and it was very nice playing with you through the many, many, many months of Ascension.
I think it comes back to what Shub was saying, though, right? Is like what makes you be toxic during certain periods, and it's just one of those things. I think it's the end game goal, right? A lot of games that we play, it's not us versus another person. It's us versus the environment or the game itself. And that I personally have an easier time distinguishing of, like, you know, this isn't something that I should be upset about and I shouldn't get mad about it. Like, we'll get it eventually because this is a set thing. This is you go in, you learn it, you do it. Right.
So I'm going to pull us back on to topic, because you asked us a question and now we're like not talking about it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So you had asked, like, what effects does it have both in and out of game, right? And I can say personally, I've lost friends over toxicity. Like, even like setting boundaries, you know, somebody's a shitter to you and you go like, hey man, like, I love playing games with you, but like, just please don't treat me like that anymore. And then the next time they get mad and they do it again and they do it again. And like, I've learned to set boundaries with people very early because people were shitters with me. And I've also learned a lot about myself. I think being a shitter was probably very positive for me. And I apologize to everybody's time I've wasted, because like, it was a lot. But like, I really learned the value of understanding how you treat other people. I really learned that when I saw, like, there were people that I used to like bully, and like I look back on it, and I was the fat kid growing up. I got bullied every day. Like, I don't know why I guess I do know why I was like that, right? Like, I was tanking it out on the internet. But like, I look back and I'm embarrassed, man. I'm embarrassed about the way I tried to hurt people over dumb shit.
Well, I think that's a big point is when we play games, we're not just doing it, like, even if you are being the shitter or you're not, you're playing a game most of the time to relieve stress or to relax in some fashion most of the time, right? You're having fun. That's the point. And if your way of relieving stress is being a shitter,
Is causing other people's stress, right?
yeah, that's how you're relieving your stress. That's what you're going to do, whether you intend to hurt someone's feelings or not, which is unfortunate, don't get me wrong, but that is their outlet, right? They don't have another outlet, let's say, so they got to do something. Like, so on that end, I kind of understand, and I don't want to hold it against them. Like, when Probie shits on me and playing Smite, I just stop talking. Like, if I'm sick of hearing it, it's like, you know what? I'm just not going to respond. He'll eventually shut up.
Also not wrong.
That's like, but that's a very good personal boundary, like, right? Like, I would be willing to wager that the majority of the people we know do not have that self-control and will turn around and start poking Probie for poking them. Like, Motown. I know I do it. I know Motown does it. Like, I know Artemis does it.
Passive aggressive individual.
I may or may not have done it.
Honestly, though, like, like when Motown joined last night, it changed the whole environment. And I think having a third person there to just kind of relieve that, right?
I'm sure it also helps that Motown is like in between, like professional and noob at all games. Like, he just starts right in the middle. Up. And so, like, it's nice to have that buffer of like, you can be like really mad at something. Motown goes like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, this thing actually happened and we're just going to do it this way and do better. And then like, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden it's diffused. He's like the bomb diffusal squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, as I was going to say, I think he does really good at that, right? Because he came in, he knew we had tension going on. Like, I was being quiet and I was annoyed. So I was just letting it be. And he came in and he's like, oh, what's going on? I started talking to him because Probie wasn't saying shit 'cause he was on the phone with his stupid internet provider because, quote unquote, having internet problems.
Okay.
And so during that, right, he goes, oh, well, starts bullshit, and then he's like, oh, so Probie's being a shitter, huh? All right, and then he starts bagging on Probie. It's like, oh, cool. He makes me feel better because he's on my side when he comes in.
Yeah, and then I came back and Motown's like, oh, so you're sucking ass at the game tonight, huh? It's like, oh my god. But so that goes to kind of our next topic, banning systems, right? When should people be banned? And we'll just kind of we'll use Smite to kind of start off with of like, do you ban, in your opinion, and neither one of them's good in my opinion, but in your guys' opinion, what's better? To have someone who just gets so fucking mad at the game that they just sit in base for 20 minutes? Or to have the person who continuously keeps trying, but they may be breaking keys on their keyboard with how hard they're typing? You know what I mean? Just talking mad shit to people. Which one's worse? And when's too much? Who gets banned?
For me, I will say, like, right off the jump, that I think that every multiplayer online game that I've played is too lenient on toxicity bans.
Sure.
Like,
absolutely.
I know when I played League of Legends, you could report the same account a million times, like literally every time you played with them for like 10 years, and that you just keep seeing them. So I think that boundary though is it's so subjective, man. Cause like, Atiri puts up with shit better than I do. I might report you. Atiri might just mute you. Yeah. So like, I think realistically what needs to happen is there need to be ways to communicate that are not offensive, and ways to stop people from communicating who are offensive. Mute systems and pings, like, as annoying as it is that somebody can ping yes 1,000 times in Smite, I'd rather them only be able to communicate by pings than being a keyboard warrior.
So do you think that it's so lenient because at the end of the day, it's the bottom line? If they ban someone, right? If they ban someone, the chances of them coming back to the game are 50-50, right? And if they don't come back, I would argue that most people do come back at least once. But if they don't come back, that's money that they've lost. That's a potential customer that they can no longer get funds from. But in the long run, wouldn't you think that, like, because look at League of Legends. It is known to be one of the most toxic communities out there. And with that type of reputation, imagine being a new player trying to get into the game, your very first game, and you just get shit on. Are you going to go back? Are you going to spend money on this game that you're trying to learn and other people are making you feel awful about?
Like, I think they're trying, right, with what they have, because they can't just outright ban everyone, and then obviously you're losing people because of this reason, with them being shit on as well. So they are trying on the aspect. Like, I have seen a lot of games starting to implement the concept of, in your options, you can go and you can just turn off communication with your team, which is unfortunate because with teams like Smite or League, it's a team-focused game, and when you can't see your chat or the pings anymore, it kind of kills out that experience a little way and makes it harder to actually win. But I can understand that it's a better avenue for them, because if someone's having a really bad time because people are crapping on them, they can just turn it off. So, like, for me, I personally would rather have a guy trying but bitching the whole time, because I can just mute him, like Shub said, right? I'll just move on my life, we'll continue to play, and, well, if I could see that he needs help, I'll help, but otherwise, I don't really care. But if a guy's sitting at the beginning doing nothing for 30 minutes, whatever, that's a waste, because now the chances of us winning just went down. If we have a 5-person game, 5-on-5 team, we just went on 25%, right? Or 20% chance of winning is gone. So that is more detrimental, in my opinion, to the odds of victory in a competitive style game. It's one thing if it's a game like WoW and you're doing a raid. You have one guy being a shitter in a 25-man raid. Okay, I can still do it with 24. It's not going to hurt us any. But in a 5-man on 5-man game like that, it can be huge.
I think that's where my kind of apprehension happens, because if, for example, say someone is shitting on me specifically in a game like League of Legends, which is a game I still play sometimes, I can mute them. I don't want to listen to this shit. I don't care. While if they are AFK, they're ruining the game for me and everyone else. But on the other hand, I also understand that some people get really tilted by the fact that they get shit on by some teammate. So if someone, let's say I'm playing bot lane, and then the mid lane is shitting on the top lane, and then the top lane starts playing bad because he doesn't understand the fact that he needs to just mute the mid lane. Then the mid lane is ruining my game by making the top lane worse than he normally would be, because he might already be playing bad, but psychology says if you start yelling at a person, he's going to be worse. He's not going to be better. He's going to be worse than he was before.
My thing is, I think that personally, I would rather have someone who's being toxic and still playing versus someone who just AFKs. For the exact, I won't reiterate what Atiri said, but exactly what Atiri said, that, I would rather have someone actively being there, and even if they're doing bad, it's still another person in a 5-on-5 type of game, and they're at least still trying, versus someone going AFK and then that's it, right?
Yeah, I get it, and I will actually, I'd say 70% agree, but there is the 30% where that one shitter can make the rest of my team worse by shitting on them and them then playing worse than they usually would have. Especially if they're already playing bad, which means they're already aware of the fact that they are 0-5-0. They know they're playing bad, and then someone starts shitting on them, and then they're going from maybe a normal game would have gone from 0.7.0 to being 0.10.0 because they're playing worse. But that's the 30%. Like that's less than the.
Realistically, I think the thing here is like AFKs should just get banned. Like realistically, if you are queuing into a game, you need to play the best you are able. That doesn't mean you should give your best, but like if you're having a bad game and it's just like, farm the jungle, be a couple of under level, try to be available for team fights, not really get anything done, still feed, at least you played the game. Yeah. Right? Like, but in the same capacity, Probie, I have tried to just play the game and still been yelled at by quite a few people before. Like, not just you, like Motown does
Yeah.
it too, because I don't have the mechanical knowledge. I don't have the awareness. I don't, like, let me tell you, man, the particular flavor of mental illness that I have, if I watch the mini map, I lose sight of my character. If I watch my character, I lose sight of literally everything else.
Yeah. And I get that, right? And that kind of leads, you said a good little phrase there, your particular flavor of mental illness, right? And I'm not saying that everyone who plays games has mental illness, that's not where I'm leading into, but a lot of the times when being toxic, and I'm just speaking from my experiences that I reflect on, is I don't think about what I should. And what I mean by that is I don't think about who is behind that screen. Is that a little kid that's just trying to play a game? You know, it could be as simple as it's just a kid at home. He's trying to play a video game at night before he goes to bed or does homework, right? It could be a grown adult who just got home from a rough day of work. It could be a grown adult who just got home from an easy day at work. But we don't know, and a lot of times when being toxic, we don't think about who's on the other side of that screen. It could be someone who just has a really shitty life, and this is their escape, right? We've talked about it in past podcasts of people play games to escape from reality at times, and then they run into someone, you know, for example, me on a bad day, where I'm just being toxic to them and not having the self-awareness to think this could be what is making this dude's night or female's night or girl's night or whatever. This could be making their night, and this could be what they're looking forward to. And I'm also ruining that because I feel like they're ruining my time.
I think this also touches on that topic we talked about in a couple episodes ago of like the golden rule, and how we talked about how it's not necessarily treat people how you want to be treated, but treat people how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, is there ever a time where you think that toxicity is justified against other toxicity? Like, is there ever a time where it is time to treat that person the way they have chosen to be treated?
So personally,
or is that the point where you should absolutely walk away? Because like in my life, I walk away before that even happens. Like I'm the kind of guy that like, you're going to be toxic. Like I'm going to make sure I don't play with you again. I think that like MOBAs should have a list of people that you just do not want to queue against that just cycles every 14 days. Everybody gets a new chance every 2 weeks.
I love that idea. And I think, see, this is where I'm conflicted because like my time in the military, how we dealt with our problems, a lot of the times I was in an all male unit. A lot of times how we dealt with our problems is we
beat the shit out of each other, I assume.
Yeah, it was either physical or it was you just learned to get over it, right? Like you did what you did and you either came to throwing hands at it or you just avoided each other you did a little bit of both there, right? You either confronted it with more toxicity or you walked away from it and eventually it dissipated because that was the environment that you're in. But in this situation to where you're only locked into this situation most of the time you're only locked into this toxic environment for as long as you want or for a very finite amount of time to where you're not stuck there all the time. It's not like you go home and there's that situation that you can't escape from. This is an online game where if it gets really bad, you can literally just disappear and bump the fuck out and then that's it. You don't ever have to talk to that person ever again and it's done. But I do think that there is a time where you should confront toxicity with toxicity.
Well, I think actually on that note, on the whole, walk away, accept the beating, so to speak, or try to lean into it, so to, if you want to say it like that. I come from a very rural area, which meant you could either fight back, you could take the beating, or you could walk away. And the only right answer was fighting back, because any other option would lead to more bullying.
That's fair, right? And in a sense, like that's kind of how some of gaming is you can fight back to it, and I've used that to my advantage before. Again, specifically with Smite, where you're playing a 5-on-5 to where someone's being toxic, I may take top damage and then make a comment as simple, knowing exactly what it's going to do, and say, wow, you're so shit that you don't even have top damage. And then next thing you know, they're going to keep talking shit, but they're trying harder now because they have a point to prove. They have a point to say, oh, no. I'm going to be the guy that's top damage doing the most work in this game, and I'm going to make you regret saying that. It doesn't work very often, but when it does, it's one of those you almost feel justified in saying, ha, I got you, right?
I wonder if there's something to be said about the fact that you did say that it doesn't work very often, though, on whether or not it's like a valid thought process.
You catch more.
Like Bull said, like if you yell at somebody, most of the time they're going to get worse.
I was going to say on that too is sometimes it's really, this comes down to the people, right? Because some people do work things out better by arguing and fighting it out, right? Whereas some other people, that is not how they deal with problems. So you got to take that as well into account. I think that's where a lot of the percentage might come in, that some person might do better because they want to prove you wrong, which is similar to getting in a fight with someone, right? You're using your actions to portray your opinion or what you think toward the other individual. Where there are some other people who are just like, yeah, I just don't want to deal with this, so they're not going to.
Sure. And that kind of opens up to what is too much. At what point is an acceptable level of being toxic, and what is too much? Like, I don't tell people that I hope their family gets hit by a bus and dies and all that, right?
Bullswag already said it. When you attack my game, it's fine. When you attack me, it's not. That's literally what it is. Like, you can shit on how I'm terrible at Smite all day. The moment you come after anything that's not me playing this game of Smite, there's a problem.
So don't make it personal. Just keep
Don't make it personal.
Yeah, keep it in game.
Yeah. I'd say that because when I'm playing, I don't play Smite as much as you guys do. I play League of Legends. And if someone shits on my game, if League of Legends, I can analyze my game in that match and say like, yeah, I'm playing like shit. You are actually completely right. I am playing like shit, and I will try to do better throughout the rest of the match. It's gonna be hard because I am behind in gold, but I will try. But the moment you go like, you're playing bad in the game, you can go kill yourself. I hope your parents get cancer. It's just like, see, now you made it personal. I don't like you.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, and I mean that's the long and the short of it, right? Like, I get that you could be mad at the game, but that's I said it. You're mad at the game, whether it's me playing the game or whatever. You're still mad at the game. Like, half the time, the people you're playing with, you don't even know. So, like, calling into their personal life, like you said, somebody could be having a rough life or even just a rough day, man. And, like, to go after them when they're already down, like, the consequences of what you're saying could be greater than you ever understand.
Right, there's been cases where people have, like, if someone says, go kill yourself, people have done it. And it's like, could you physically live with that on your conscience, knowing that person actually went out and did it because you said so?
Over a video game.
Yeah,
over one bad game, because let's be honest, Smite games don't last longer than 70 minutes, so it's not like that much of your time was actually thrown away in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And that's the point that I try to, right, like, I may shit on my teammates and whatnot, but I don't tell people to go hurt themselves. I don't tell people I hope, like, their family dies and stuff like that, because to me, that's where the line is, right? As soon as I do that, I've lost what I feel is an acceptable level for myself.
Yeah, because I've seen you stream and I've played with you, and you can be a match hitter, let's be honest, but you have a let's say a moral code. There is a line you won't cross.
At the end of the day, I don't want anyone to hurt themselves over a video game, right? Like, I want you to play better in the game, but that doesn't mean that I think that you're an actual trash person and that, like, you just shouldn't exist in the world. It's hard to explain because it's like, yeah, okay, you wasted my time, but you know what? At least you were here to waste my time. And in the long run, I may not like you, and if I ever met you, I may not, like, actually like you as a person, but at least you're still here because there are people who do like you. And I wouldn't want anything that I said in game to cause you to think that, like, damn, I really shouldn't be here in this world anymore over a game, right? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. It is a game.
Yeah. And that, I think that's one of the core points of what we're talking about, actually, is that the fact that at least all of us here, and hopefully, I'm gonna say 99% of the gaming world, want players to be there. They want players to play against, bad or good or whatever. They want someone to play against. But there are people, and that's the sad reality of life, that are hanging on to a threat that just needs an excuse. And don't be the person giving them that excuse. That's the bare minimum. Like, be a mad shitter. Be someone who tells them, like, you are shit at this game. Why aren't you doing this, that, and this? That's fine. But don't go like yourself. Yo, I hope your parents have cancer. I hope that your f***ing brothers are gonna rape you. That's so much worse than what you can really imagine. And some people just can't handle that because the rest of their life is already...
Can I say too, Bullswag, you said something that I really agree with too. You mentioned that you can be a shitter and you can tell somebody what to do better. And I think that's another thing. Anger is easier for me to deal with when there's constructive criticism. Like, your shit at the game just makes me not want to play games with you. But you need to do this, and this better. Like, let's do that. Like, that gives me direction, man. Like, half of the time, every game is a learning experience. You can learn something from every player in every game, right? And if somebody is willing to, like, do that for me, that changes it. I don't think it's as toxic. Like, at that point, you want me to do better.
You know, I picked that up from YouTube of when we were playing Smite for the first time of, tell me what to do. Don't tell me I'm just shit. Tell me what to do. And I think that, you know, one of the things that that the majority of people that I know, right, in gaming could do is just be better. And what I mean is, I don't mean be better at the game. Be better teachers. Be better gamers. Be better online. And you wouldn't feel the need to be toxic. And it's something that I can work on too, is just be a better teammate, right? However, be better comes to you and makes you feel like, yes, this is an acceptable thing. Take that and just be better. You want your friends to learn a game? Be a better teacher. Be a better mentor, role model, whatever.
Without getting, like, super cheesy about it too, apply that to your entire life. Like, I like to talk about with work, like, every time you do a project, you should try to improve upon that by 1%. Like, same thing with podcasts and YouTube videos, because that compounds to being hundreds of percent better every year, thousands of percent better every year. Like, find ways to just be better. And one of the best things that we can do, one of the things that is like the human experience, is sharing knowledge, man. There's so much to learn, and we have access to the internet. Like,
I mean, we created a whole community off of it, right? Ascended Gaming it was literally built around, we created a whole community based around people just being better, providing a space for people to come in, play how they want, and not be made fun of, to not be shit on. If they want to learn something, they have a spot to learn something, but they can come in, be themselves, and have a space that they know when I get on at night, if I join in a lobby with random people, that I'm not going to be ridiculed. And that was our whole goal, and is our goal for Ascended Gaming, is you have a spot to come in, even if you're not a gamer. We have artists in here. We have, you know, content creators that do other things. We provide a platform for people.
It's all walks of life. We've got people of all genders, races, like, I'm sure religions, but we don't talk about it very much. People from, like, hundreds of countries around the world. Like, we've got people that do all professions, from military to, like, blue collar, white collar. We've got people who do work, don't work. Like, it's literally everybody, because like we said at the beginning, gaming's a universal language, and at the end of the day, we all just want to escape something in our lives. Like I don't know, man. It's so easy. Gaming is just this universal thing. I wish more people understood that.
I think that's where my point is that you can like join hands in gaming. You can see it as a, say you play League of Legends, you play Smite, you play World of Warcraft. It's a team effort, and you join hands and you say, let's fucking crack this nut. However, we need to crack this nut, and you can either do that by playing with your team members or playing against them, and that's, I feel like, it's very relevant to the real life world, because who haven't been in a job where your fucking boss or your colleagues have worked against you? Like, you come in with an idea and they go like, I don't know. I feel like that's bad. I feel like that should be thrown out, without coming with any criticism. Actually, they're just saying like, I think it's bad, and that's, I think, coming back to the point that Shub made earlier, that constructive criticism goes a long way.
You would have loved our topic about work then, because when we talked about all that and we kind of went into that, and it may be something that we come back to in the, in the future. We talked about, like people being constructive versus people just yelling at you to yell at you. But with that said, we are coming to our time on the yard is about to be up. So before we head back to our cells, does anyone have any final thoughts that they want to get out there?
I guess I just like to reiterate, like, I like that idea of just be better, like, be better people, like, help other people, like, do your best. Like, you'd be surprised how, even like if you want it selfishly, how rewarding it is to waste your time helping other people rather than being mad.
I agree. I think that's a good note to end on, is try to at least make it a learning experience for somebody, if that's if you need to let out that anger.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of long but short story, but I once helped a whole Looking for Raid, if anyone knows World of Warcraft, do a boss they didn't know how to do. It was very rewarding. I get nothing out of helping them, but it was very rewarding. So be better, help people around you instead of criticize people around you, because that might work for in your benefit, getting friends or better players in the future.
I think that's a great spot to leave it on. So again, be better. We can all do better, and just think about who's on the other side of that when you feel that urge to go off on someone. And that goes for in person as well. Just think about what that day might look like for that other person. So with that said, I do want to thank everyone. Of course, links to the video we mentioned earlier will be down there. Links to Ascended Gaming will be down there. We welcome anyone, whether you're a gamer or not. You're free to chat with us there. I do want to thank everyone. I want to thank Shub, Atiri, and I also want to thank Bullswag for joining us today. I look forward to talking to everyone in the future.
Later, y'all.
How we going?
Later.
Alrighty. We'll see you guys next time at Probie's Prison.